Hello, everybody. Welcome to another one of our Get to Know Your Holistic Chamber membership. And this last month, we had Becky talking about the strategies of networking and how to make it work for you to maximize your opportunities to collaborate, to connect, and maybe even have strategic partnerships. And so this is a great segue for Barry to share with us. He's calling this the morning after, turning networking connections into referral partners when last night's connections become your biggest advocates. So I'm going to let Becky and Barry take on this conversation while we listen in.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen. And I appreciate everybody tuning in. You can always catch us on a replay, of course, but it always helps when we have people coming into these discussions live. It's a great segue because we are part of a networking event and talking last month about the importance and how it's a skill that we have to develop. I think the Barry, you and I have spoken before about this, how the magic is in the follow-up. And
Mhm.
that's what we're kind of talking about tonight to continue this conversation about the power of networking. And last month, we had spoken about how when you go to networking events, you're not necessarily looking to do business with the people right in front of you, but to how to connect with them and to really think about, are they going to become a collaborator? Are they going to become a connector? Or are they going to become a strategic partner? So, with that in mind, what we're talking about tonight, Barry, is specifically the follow up. The fortune is in the follow up, of course, and the referral system that you can build with that. So, I'll just let you kind of start off, and then I'll just kind of ask some questions as we go.
Okay, well, we've heard the fortune is in the follow-up, and one of my sales mentors says he takes it to the next step. He says, "No, the fortune isn't in the follow-up. The fortune is in the closing."
This is true. This
Um,
is very true.
right. So, you had some very insightful comments last month when we went through this, and we go to networking, hoping we will meet someone that in time will help us expand our business. A lot of people have the idea of just, here's my business card, this is what I do, call me. And that doesn't work. We need to build relationships. I mean, I don't think I mean, I go to meet people when I network, and most of my networking nowadays is online. And but I don't go with the attitude of walking out of that meeting with a client or a customer. I go with, who is someone that I connected with that seems like, my mindset, my philosophies that I could get to know and work with. And so it's about building the relationship. So I think you know uh, we're going to talk about a few things, but tonight. But it's building those relationships. It's how do you get the introduction, and what are different levels of referral or introduction. So the fortune being in the follow up. I think we recognize we need to follow up,
Mhm.
and then it's how do you follow up? What do I say if I'm going to follow up with someone and not be salesy? How do I do it? How do I
Mhm.
build? And it's about building the relationship. Whether we say people buy from those that they know, like, and trust. Well,
Mhm.
that goes for referrals and introductions as well. I look at making an introduction to someone, uh, or a referral, as it's my integrity.
Mhm.
If I refer someone and it doesn't work out, that's a hit to my integrity, or they
Right.
aren't they aren't so I usually don't make referrals or introduce people unless I feel really comfortable with them. And
Mhm.
I do quite a bit of networking on Alignable, and they encourage you to endorse people and make recommendations and make connections. Uh, and I've had people endorse me, make
Mhm.
a recommendation for me on the platform after being in one 7-minute breakout.
Mm.
I mean, and fortunately with Alignable, when a referral is made, you can accept it or not, or an endorsement is made, you can accept it or not. And so I've got a lot of endorsements that I haven't accepted because I've spent 7 minutes on a Zoom with that person.
Right.
And there's no way until we have at least a follow-up call and I get to know them a little better that I'm going to endorse or introduce them to somebody.
Right. You bring up an interesting point with that. When you go to these networking events, we touched on it lightly last month, but this is where we want to get into the meat of it. You're meeting a lot. There's a lot of people in the room. If you're online, there tends to be quite a few people as well. And it's moving through that conversation. You're saying hi, you're asking the personal questions. Every once in a while you people will ask, what is it that you do? And there's an answer, but trying to find those moments to get that personal information when you're trying to meet as many people. um, what do you feel about the one-to-one? How do you take that initial meeting into creating a one-on-one meeting where you can get into the personal and start discussing things with them?
Yeah, good question. And that can be whether you meet somebody in at an in-person event or an online event. Um, I'm pretty good at judging people, and if our whole initial conversation, whether it's in a breakout on Zoom or live in person, is them pitching me, I'm most likely not going to be interested. There's not going to be any effort to follow up on my part. Uh,
Right.
and in the breakouts, I work to get people. I don't ask them what do you do. I ask them who you are.
Hmm.
And a lot of us don't want to answer that question because we're so in, our thinking is so much what we do and about making our business successful or helping other people through our business. Um, so what I do is when we're in the breakout or in the in-person meeting is at least say I'd like to have another meeting with you. At least,
Hmm.
if you don't schedule it there, at least say I'm going to reach out to you to schedule a meeting. So you start
Hmm.
the process there. And then, a discovery meeting could be a half an hour or an hour. I've had some where we've just really clicked and their schedule was opened and we've talked for 2 hours. That's unusual, and I like to respect people's time. So if they're short on time, we'll end the meeting and reschedule. But yes, follow up to find out more about what they do. And I don't send people information about what I do unless we've had that follow up and they're interested in it. Uh,
Right.
and before the follow up, I usually go on their LinkedIn, or if we met on Alignable, the Alignable platform. Uh, if I have access, on LinkedIn, a lot of people put their website, and a lot of people put a link to their website, and find out as much as I can about them before I have that follow-up meeting.
Right. Because you are trying to find, is this person going to be one of those three things, a collaborator, a
Yep,
connector,
yep,
or that strategic partner? So,
yep. And I
okay.
think,
So,
in that first meeting, you can discern whether it's someone that you like.
mhm.
And then the follow-up is the know and the trust part.
Right.
That's where that comes in.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So when you're getting into that one-to-one and you've kind of starting to figure out where you'd like to take this budding relationship, you're
Hmm.
building trust, you're building that connection, if you
Hmm.
will. And like you said earlier, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So do you find that when you're having those one-on-ones, is there a specific question you're asking, or are you trying to figure out where you're going to, what category you're going to put them into?
I like to understand. I like to learn early on
Mm-hmm.
what's their background.
Mm-hmm.
um how did they, and like many of us entrepreneurs, what we're doing now isn't what we did in an earlier career. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to understand a little bit about who they are. If you made a career transition, why? Why did you do it? How did you
Mm-hmm.
get from where you were? And some people have been in the business for their whole career, and so
Right.
you go back to what transpired them to start that career, and they stayed with it. So I like to find out why they're doing what they're doing. What's your passion for your business? I also like to find out what their other interests are. I mean, with doing networking on the internet, I don't meet people that often that are close geographically to where I live, so we could get together. But if you know what people's interests are, that's something that you can talk with them about with
Mm-hmm.
outside of the business conversation. So I'm
Right.
all about building friendship relationships as much as I am, figuring out which category they're going to fit into how we work with the business.
Gotcha. So that brings up an extra interesting point because I'm kind of somebody who likes to plan. So, as somebody who's heavy into networking, um, you're going into rooms and meeting. Oftentimes, sometimes you'll meet one or two people, but there may be sometimes where you have the time to meet several people.
Mhm.
Explain to me how you're going to keep track of that. There has to be a system in place to be able to keep track and know when to do your follow-ups and when to do your reach outs and things like that.
Right. Good question. And you know, Alignable, I'll just take Alignable for example, because I've really started using that platform a lot. They
Mm-hmm.
have dozens I mean, really every day they've got a meeting almost every hour.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and their platform is, for most of the meetings, is to have 7 breakouts with one-on-one. Sometimes there'll be
Mm-hmm.
two. So, you're going to meet 6, 7, 8 people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that platform, when the meeting is over, it brings up a page that shows all the people that you met with. But I've got a spiral bound notebook, and I just start with taking notes while we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the meeting, if it's someone that I decide I'd like to connect with, I connect with them on LinkedIn or Alignable, and send the message saying, enjoyed our conversation. I'd like to continue it. Sometimes I send my Calendly link saying, let's get something scheduled. Sometimes I ask them, what's the best way to schedule a meeting?
Okay.
And so to get that done now, um, you need a system. And my 3 ring, my notes on my binder is a start. And a CRM is great. Not everybody has a CRM. I don't have a full CRM. I'm looking for what's the best one for me right now. You can put in an Excel spreadsheet. Many people have an individual client sheet. So they'll
Mhm.
everybody they meet that they are going to be building some sort of relationship with, they've got, a form that they fill out and they keep it on their computer. There's a tool that I have. I'm just starting to use it. That it's not a full CRM. That it allows you to put in all the contact information about the person, the family, their business information, their personal information. They like to hike. Maybe, I'll give my example. I like to hike. I like to horseback ride. I'm crazy about classic cars. Um, and I like to travel. And this platform I uses allows you to put in keywords for all of those things, and then you can select a time that an interval that you're going to follow up with. And so, say you pick, I'm going to follow up with this person in 2 weeks, and then in a month, and then maybe once a month, depending upon where the relationship goes, or maybe it's once a week.
Right.
And so, I mentioned, we don't know how to follow up without being salesy. Well, learning personal things about someone, and then using this platform, it uses AI. So you put in all of these categories. Barry likes classic cars. Barry likes the horseback ride. Barry likes travel. He went to University of Michigan. He's crazy Michigan sports fan. You put all of those keywords in, and then when you're ready to contact that person, the system gives you a nudge. It gives you a notice that, you're due to contact, you're due to contact John. So you pull up John and you see he's interested in Duke basketball. Well, we're coming up on the March Madness. And so you click Duke basketball, and AI brings up a bunch of things about Duke basketball. So you can send him some information. If he's got kids that play soccer, you could do that. So that's a handy way to do it. It's something I'm just getting started in. Others that have used it have found it very successful. I mean, your typical CRM allows you to put next follow-up date and that
Right.
information, but it doesn't provide you with the tool to have the content to send them. So that's one thing that I like about that. And you can do it with a phone call, with an email, with a message on social media, uh, you know, whatever works. And one thing I like to do is ask people, what's the best method to communicate with you?
Hmm.
If you look at all the ways we have, all the social media, um, email, texting, a phone call, there's like at least 10 different platforms.
Yep.
And you can't, it takes a lot of time to check those every day. So when you're really serious about connecting with someone, ask them, what's the best way to connect with you? Do you like texting? Would you rather have a phone call and a voicemail? Do you look at your email more often? And I get people sending me messages all the time on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Alignable. And I don't always check the messages every day. And sometimes,
Right.
2 or 3 days will be, they'll ask me for a meeting on Tuesday, and I find out on Thursday that they asked me for the meeting by messaging through the platform. So I just let people know. I said, look, if you want to get my attention, send me a text. If you send me an email, send me a text, because I get, a couple hundred emails a day, and emails fall through the cracks, and that'll facilitate that communication. I know some people really like to communicate over LinkedIn. So I
Hmm.
know that I need to just check LinkedIn if I'm serious about, building a relationship with them and letting them know that, that they're top of mind.
Right. It's interesting. And I just want to kind of clarify because just for anybody who may not know what CRM stands for, we're talking about CRM stands for a customer relationship management system. There's a lot of stuff out there. I think people tend to try and get into one system or another too quickly. I love that you suggest just keeping track on an Excel spreadsheet sometimes just to keep costs down. But all of this kind of drives your follow-ups into almost a funnel where the top of it is where you're networking and building that. And as you go through that funnel,
Mhm.
as you work those follow-ups, you're creating a constant system that builds what you're looking for, which is that referral system. And so we talk about um, that system and stuff. So what would be some of the different levels of um, that funnel or these groups that you can go to, I guess, when you're, building that referral system? Um, at what point have you classified them into a position? At what point are you starting to talk about business? Do you think that there's a natural progression of that, or is there?
Well, I think we're always talking about business, but it's
Hmm.
not. Let me say that in a different way. Business is always a part of it, but it's not the only thing. So
Right.
depending upon the person's personality and uh, you know, you have to decide, how does the relationship build? Is it all personal? Is it personal business? Maybe they don't like sharing much about their personal life, and it's all
Hmm.
business. So you've got
Right.
to use your judgment in that. And then, at a point after you feel comfortable with the relationship, where you would refer them, where you would introduce them to someone else, then, if like anything else in life, if you don't ask, you don't get. I think you have to ask for the referral or the introduction. And then again, depending upon the level that the person is at with being a referral partner, you need to show them, you need to teach them how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, how many times have you met someone who says, "Oh, I know someone that can use your services. I'll give them your name and phone number."
Mm-hmm.
And you never hear anything. So that's a referral. That's kind of the lowest level. It's a cold contact for that person that they
Mm-hmm.
that they they give you. They may give you somebody's name and phone number and
Mm-hmm.
say, "Here, call this person because I know they need your services."
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they haven't contacted them, it's no different than a cold call. You know,
Right.
Becky, Karen said you can, here's what I do. Karen said that you need this and that I should call you. How impersonal is that? Where's the know, like, and trust there? Um, and so I know BNI teaches this. I'm not a BNI member, but there's like they've got like 8 different levels of 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 referrals that go from giving someone your name and phone number and no introduction to your referral partner actually closing the deal for you. All you have to
Right.
do is sign on the dotted line. And what seems to work well for me is an intermediate where you do a three-way introduction, and that can be a text, an email, a phone call, a Zoom. If you're all local, get together for coffee or lunch and introduce the person, edify both people a little bit, give them a little bit of information about each other, and then say, I've introduced you guys, you take it from here. And the
Mm-hmm.
person giving the referral doesn't need to be involved past that. Now they may, but they don't have to be. And that kind of an introduction, I'll call it an introduction, not a referral. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that has been the most successful for me. The person giving the referrals doesn't have to put that much effort into it, so it's easy and painless for them. And I'll send them an email and say, when you have someone that you think we would, be good, that you can refer me to, here's what I would like you to put in the introduction. That way they don't
Mhm.
even have to think about how to describe you or your services. It's all done for them.
Wow,
So,
that's see. So there's a good lesson in that is that anyone who is looking at networking to build their funnel of leads and referrals,
mhm,
they should come up with a small blurb that they have ready to give to somebody that they're connecting with then.
yep. Just just two or three sentences.
Hmm.
Doesn't need to be long. Um, an introduction to the person they're referring you to and edifying you so that person knows you have the qualifications.
Very good. I love that because I've always thought that as someone who loves to network, that when I walk into rooms, it's not about what can these people do for me. It's more of that, like you just said, that
Mhm.
givers get of what do I bring to this room? What can I do to be a resource to everyone in this room?
Right,
And I love that
right.
idea that that's how you're building that system out. That three-way connection. Um, I love that you touch on um, the systems on how we set this up because we've said it a couple of times during this talk that the follow-up is so important to build that referral system, to
Right.
become a referral system to somebody else. Um, do you find that you're able to put the information, at what point are you putting people into your client relationship management system? Because not everybody you come in contact with may be that warm touch for the next couple of weeks, but they may be somebody that you haven't hit that spot yet. So
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
determine that?
Okay, so I use Microsoft Outlook for
Hmm.
my email and a contact list.
Hmm.
And then the other platform for the more CRM for, to take it to the next level. So if I meet someone that I have a good feeling about, they go on my contact list right away. So I have them there. And then if there's a text or a phone call or an email, they're recognized in my system. Um, but if it's, after a couple of contacts, if we're going to start that regular keep in touch mode, then they need to be in your system because otherwise they'll fall through the cracks.
Gotcha.
Um, and
Gotcha.
especially if you start doing some serious referrals or they become a client.
Hmm. Now it's interesting because I know I meant to talk to Karen about this because I think there's even um another dive that we can do in this networking series because we keep talking about getting back in touch in the follow up. And we keep
Mhm.
referring to a calendar and learning how to block time in your calendar and dedicate specific times so that you're optimizing your um, referral lead generation, your business hours. Whereas on the peripheral, those early morning or, late in the afternoon, evening time, when it's tough to get in touch with people because they've gone home or, you're just giving them personal time. So we call them the golden hours, the platinum hours. So where do you find time to do these follow-ups and to make the referrals? Typically, when do you find that time?
Um, if I don't just block out time on my calendar,
Hmm.
and it may I'll just block out a couple hours, and I'll just say follow up.
Right.
Sometimes I'll list the people's names in the calendar event to follow up with. because if it's with me, um, I tend to be a little ADD-ish, uh, um, a little busy, and if I don't stay organized, it may not happen.
Right.
And we all are our success is built on our integrity, and the integrity goes to just keeping your word on following up. you know
Hmm.
we're gonna I'll get you some information in the next day or two, or I'll talk to you next week or whatever. And if you don't do that, then that's a ding on your integrity and on the trust factor,
Right.
on your reliability. So yeah,
Very nice.
blocking out time is important. And me being on the East Coast now and still doing a lot of business and a lot of contacts on the West Coast,
Hmm.
my day is kind of all over the place. And I just have to block out time. I had to block out time to think about what we're going to do here tonight.
Right.
I do a radio program. It was at 5:15 today on wdrbmedia.com. I have to block out time once a week because I've got to record my session and get it to them a week ahead of time. And if it's not on schedule, they charge me. I get penalized
Right.
if I'm late.
Right.
So, being organized and having things blocked out on our calendar, I think is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, I think we've covered everything that, you know, we wanted to here. Do you have any kind of last advice? I mean, networking is such an amazing tool, and I think that it goes without saying that not everybody is an extrovert like, you or I could be. When I walk into a room, my objective is, geez, these are new people, and I want to say hi to everybody. Um, I always like to ask the question of networkers, is there any advice that you can give to somebody who may not feel as comfortable going into networking and to build that referral system?
I'm an extrovert too. But I
Exactly.
didn't I didn't used to be, though. I remember when I was in my engineering career, and we started our own company and joined some professional engineering organizations that would have meetings once a month, and kind of a new area of what we were doing. And I would just go with the intention of, I'm going to meet one new person this week that I haven't met before. And so, you we have to be comfortable getting outside of our comfort zone, right?
Right.
So
Getting
if you're a
comfortable with
little
being uncomfortable.
yeah, if you're on the introvert side, well, first of all, from a mindset standpoint, if you tell yourself you're an introvert, you're going to be an introvert. But if you
Right.
tell yourself, I can be more outgoing, and people are there to be friendly and to network and to meet other people.
And
They aren't
typically they're
they
there to do business too. So I think that's a strong thing to tell
Yeah.
people that.
And it's a learned trait, and it
Mhm.
takes a little time. And but if you have the mindset that you could just go in there and say, I'm going to go and I'm going to make sure I meet two or three new people, and get there and make sure that you get their contact information.
Mhm.
Because then you have control of the follow-up.
Right.
If you just give them your information, or give them your card. I mean, I don't even have cards anymore. My goal is to get a phone number and an email, so I have that, and it can reach out. And so, I'll put a person's number in my phone, I'll text them, I'll give them my email. ask them for theirs, and then you're already in your phone and your contact list.
Very good. Very
Uh,
good.
so yeah, I was just looking
Does
at the list of things we were going to touch on, and I think we've got about everything. But I think know, like, and trust. You've got to build that relationship for the trust. You have to ask for the referral. You don't ask, you don't get. And or just have the givers get attitude. Give
I love that.
without give with no expectation of anything in return.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that. Does anybody have any questions of Barry on
Ooh,
this?
ooh, ooh. It's not actually not so much questions. I just want to say I love this conversation because the other thing I was thinking of is when you're with somebody, it's how can I support you? Like, it's not, what can we do together? It might not be that. It's how can I support you? Who are your clients, your ideal clients, if it's
Right.
not obvious in the conversation that you've had.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking with you, Connie, I know you're working with cancer patients, but you would like to clarify that it's, maybe somebody who is during or after or something, right? Like it's
Right.
not any cancer patient.
Mhm.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's clarifying who that ideal client is so that you know exactly who to send to them, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly. And good point. Connie and I have known each other for what? A couple of years now. And we both deal with different aspects of wellness, and cancer is an overlap.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just this week, we had an hour and a half Zoom so I could find out more specifically what she does to be able to refer the right person to
Right.
her.
Mhm.
uh, and we're everybody's busy, and we've had meetings scheduled and canceled, and we finally decided, Connie, we can help each other. Uh, uh, let's figure it out, and so we did, and it was great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Um,
So, and the introvert piece, I'd like to add my own thoughts to that because it's funny, as much as I'm an extrovert, I also can feel like an introvert when I walk into a networking meeting. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm an
Yes.
extrovert till I walk into a room of 30 people. And
Hmm.
I think that introverts do better with small, intimate groups, right? Like you can walk into the
mhm,
Greater Bluffton Chamber and see 30 or 40 people. That might freak out an introvert, or it might at least be a freezing point for them. They could pick a smaller networking group. I mean, I know ours is smaller and intimate, and I know people feel more comfortable at ours too. So I think that might be an entry point until they get more comfortable, and then they can
mhm.
walk into a bigger room.
Right,
That's just
right.
my thought.
And when you walk into an in-person networking meeting, chances are people, unless you're like the first one there, people are already formed into groups talking.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're
Yeah,
an
so
introvert,
too.
you're going to feel uncomfortable, going into that meeting and bringing yourself into that circle.
Right.
And I mean, after done this for decades, I feel the same way. I feel a little uncomfortable. Now, if I
Mhm.
happen to know someone
Right.
in one of the groups, then that makes it a lot easier. I just,
Right.
go up, I'll stand outside the circle, maybe back a little bit, and then when the person that knows me, sees me there, they'll welcome me in, and it's all fine. But I learned this from one of my mentors who there's an organization called LATIP, a lot like BNI. And he worked for LATIP and was transferred to California to expand the LATIP in Southern California. But one of the things he mentioned in networking, especially if it's a new group that you're going to, is there's always a host.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually a host or
Exactly.
someone that's,
Yep.
if there's a charge or giving you a name badge or whatever. So he suggests going to that host or someone that's, knowledgeable about the group, introduce yourself, say what you do, tell them the type of people you would like to meet,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and then ask them to introduce you to two or three of those
Oh,
people.
that's an excellent idea.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you've
That's a
got
great
a
idea.
little bit of a
Yeah.
start. And after a few minutes, with talking with one person, you can say, well, I'd like to respect your time because I know you're here to meet other people. Who do you think would be someone that's here tonight that you could introduce me to? So
Mhm.
just ask that series of introductions, and
Right.
his
So
his
it's
his
finding the connector in the group, right? It's finding the
Exactly.
person that will
yeah.
connect
It's
you with other
exactly.
people.
It's
Exactly. But
exactly.
Yeah.
in an in-person meeting, you're always going to, like, Connie, you're there giving us our name badges and having us sign
Right.
in if we aren't already registered. So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
in our HCC group, Connie would be that person. And
Yeah.
so yeah, ask them what they do, and say, well, you should meet Becky, or you should
Mm-hmm.
meet Karen. And
Mm-hmm.
then that at least helps them start the conversation for someone
Yeah.
I
that's
love that.
new to the group. And
Yeah.
once you've been to a group two or three times, then you should know enough people where they can help you meet more. But
Yep.
If I
yeah.
can add on to that, another good tip is, again, if you're not the extrovert, if maybe you have extrovert tendencies with
Mm-hmm.
introvert tendencies, I also find that if it's the first time I'm going to a group, I may specifically look up the members of that network of event or group who
Mm.
might be there. There may be one or two businesses that I am targeting. I want to get to know them. So I may call ahead, or when I get to the event, in going up to the host, say, are these people here? Could you introduce me? And it follows that same line of getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I went to a networking meeting. I didn't know anybody and I barely got out of the car because I was so nervous. And I did what you said earlier, Barry. I said, I'm going to get one person's number. And
Mm-hmm.
it was uncomfortable to walk up to groups and interrupt. But I had been told by a mentor of mine that everybody there is to do business. So you interrupting or in inserting yourself into a group is not a bad thing because we're all there. But if you only get that one name, that one contact information,
Mhm.
and it's 15 minutes in and you want to leave, then do it. It's like anything. You can kind of temper yourself, but the inactivity, it's a
Mhm.
consistent actions that are going to get you comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right. Right.
Very good. Bonnie, do you have any questions or comments?
I think we.
No, I think everyone, it's been great information. And it's funny because I don't know if I can say I'm an introvert or extrovert. I think that it's based on the event. And like
Mhm.
you talked about size and all of
Mhm.
that. And so I can become very introverted in a very big, broad event, and then kind of like, okay, well, I'll wait and see. Well, maybe I might, maybe I know, and wait for someone that I know, right?
Right.
Same thing. But yet in
Yeah.
the smaller venues, I do great. I have no issues. I'm much more comfortable in that environment than I am in
Right.
the
Yeah.
Right.
And another thing I thought of,
larger events.
really.
So that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, 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 go ahead, Barry.
Well, you froze up
Um,
a little bit. He didn't know that you stopped.
yeah,
Seemed like you stopped talking.
I thought you stopped and you
I don't
froze.
know. Yeah,
uh,
there you go.
the HCC group now is about the only one that I network live with because
Right.
of where I live, and just there's not much in-person networking. But one thing I used to do when I was at a Chamber of Commerce in the San Diego area, and there'd maybe be 60 people at our networking meeting.
Hmm.
And I was an ambassador, so I knew a lot of the regulars. When and it wasn't just because I was an ambassador, it was just my nature that when I would see somebody that I didn't recognize, I would go up, introduce myself, say, I haven't seen you here before. Are you new? And then,
Mhm.
start a conversation and welcome them, find out what they do, and, introduce them to one or two people.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's so
so
helpful to a new person. It
yeah,
truly is. Whether they're an
Yes.
introvert or extrovert, I think that's just helpful. Um, I love it. All
got it.
right, guys.
So
Well, thank you very much. I love the topic. Not Connie, Becky, we will have to get together so I can hear about your idea for the third in the series. I like, oh my
Yeah, I think I just it was in our conversation, in Barry and mine's conversation, and trying to really help our members just be better and being able to reach out and turn cold calling into warm market experiences, which I think networking can definitely do for everybody.
yeah.
And I think that schedule and schedule blocking is something that I really want to touch
Oh,
on.
okay.
So.
Okay. I'll make a note of it. But anyhow, thank you, Barry. Thank you, Becky, Connie, and everybody who plans to watch this recording. We're always trying to bring you education and information and things that will help you to make your business better. So if you've got ideas, please share them with us as well. And I hope everybody has a good evening.
Thank you,
thanks,
everyone.
Karen.
Namaste.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
Thank
opportunity.
you.